David Bay back again for another installment of MD Training 101. This week's episode brought to you by Strong Supplements and Iron Rebel Power Gear. Make sure to check out strongsupplements.com for all your supplemental needs at the best prices in Iron Rebel Power Gear, at ironrebel.com for both men's and women's apparel and all your lifting gear. Now guys, if it's your first time tuning in to Training 101, this is a basic instructional series focused on teaching you guys the fundamentals of weight training. For today's workout, we're going to be hitting shoulders. Let's get started. All right guys, for our first exercise in our shoulder workout, we are going to be doing the dumbbell shoulder press. As with all of our exercises here for Training 101, a very basic exercise, guys. We're just going to be grabbing a weight and pushing it up over our heads. For today's purposes, again, we're going to be using the dumbbells, but this particular exercise can also be done with a barbell. There's plenty of machine variations of this exercise, but we like to focus on free weights for Training 101 as much as we can. So again, we're going to start off here with the dumbbells. Now, as far as this exercise go, again, it's pretty basic, guys. We're just going to be picking the weight up, pushing it over our head. As with the other episodes, I like to go over some of the common mistakes we see with this particular exercise. Guys, the biggest thing that we see as far as mistakes here is the same thing with a lot of the free weight exercise. It's people not going through full range of motion because they use too much weight. What we'll see a lot of times is guys pick up a weight too heavy, they'll get it up here, and they'll just really short sell themselves on the depth. We see the same thing, especially with the barbell shoulder press. You see a ton of guys get a weight up and sit here and go like this. Guys, the shoulders, a very dynamic muscle group. There's a lot of range of motion. So for all of our shoulder exercises, we want to make sure we're going through the full range of motion as much as we can, without putting too much strain on the joints. Again, for the shoulder press with the dumbbells, pretty basic. I'm going to start off by just getting the weight up on my knees. Now for beginners, sometimes when you're training by yourself, you have a hard time getting the weight up. What I like to do is I'm just going to kind of flip my knees up and getting the weight into place. You can do it both at the same time. I prefer to do it one arm at a time, so it's going to look something like this. I'm going to pop my knee up, so it's going to help get that weight up into place, just like this. I'm going to get my head forward, a real strong, solid base with my feet on the ground, back up against the pad, and I'm just going to press up. Now as far as range of motion on this, guys, I'm dropping down to where the underside of my arm is about parallel with the floor, so I'm making a 90-degree angle with my arms, going through a good range of motion, coming down deep, not too deep where it's putting too much strain on my shoulders, but again, making sure I'm going through a full range of motion and getting a good workout. All right guys, next up in our shoulder workout, we're going to be doing side lateral dumbbell raises. Now this exercise is going to hit that outer lateral head of the shoulders. Really common basic exercise. We're going to be doing this one again with dumbbells. Basically guys, all you're going to be doing is holding the dumbbells at your side, raising your arms out and back down. This is a real easy exercise, guys. Again, being that it's done with dumbbells, you can pretty much do it at any gym anywhere. For some reason you're at a gym that doesn't have dumbbells, you can also do cable crossover variations where you grab opposite ends of the cables, lift them up like this. There are a handful of shoulder lateral raise machines at gyms, but again, we like to focus here on our free weights. Now, as far as mistakes that we tend to see with the lateral raises, really, again, guys, it just comes down to people using too much weight. You'll get guys that'll grab dumbbells that are way too heavy and kind of just sit here and go like this. Generally speaking, guys, you can grab really heavy weights and swing them from here to here without really working the shoulder. Again, with the shoulders, there's a lot of range of motion. I don't know that you really need to come up this high with your hands over your head for a lateral raise, but making sure you come up to about at least here, or at very minimum where your arms are straight out, that's going to get you a real effective shoulder workout. Now the other mistake that we tend to see, and this is a really weird one, guys, and I've never really understood this, is we see a lot of people do a side lateral raise where they hold the dumbbell in their hand and do this. Now, for those of you who have used side lateral machines at the gym, generally speaking, there's a pad that goes on the outer part of your arm, and the handles are forward facing. So you're grabbing the handles and doing this on a machine, and the only thing I can really think is that people are mistakenly trying to redo or mimic a machine motion with dumbbells, but dumbbells are always forcing straight down. It's a gravity-driven exercise, not a machine, cable-driven exercise. So holding the dumbbells here and doing this, guys, I have no idea where that started. but it's incorrect. Again, you want to have your arms coming out like this. I go pretty light on this exercise, guys. Again, you want to focus on getting a good squeeze and doing good form. So this is one of those exercises, like everything else, where you want to pick a weight that you can handle, focus on form, leave your ego at the door. So I'm going to grab these dumbbells here. I'm just going to stand here with the dumbbells at my side. And again, guys, I'm just going to raise them up. This is a really simple exercise. Now, along with people not using a full range of motion and short stroking these, one of the things that we tend to see a lot is guys leaning over and leaning back and using their lower back to get the weight up as well. Again, guys, we don't want to be moving this weight with momentum. We want to let our shoulders do the work. So you're going to stand upright, chest big, and just raise them out like this. We're not leaning forward and pumping the weight back up like this. That's going to put you at a higher risk for injury, and you're taking some load off of the shoulders, not working the muscle as good as you can be. So again, strict form, like with everything else. All right, guys, next up in our last exercise as far as our front and side delt workout goes is going to be our front raises. Pretty similar exercise as far as form and function as with our side lateral raises, but instead of hitting that outer lateral head of the shoulders, we're going to be hitting that meaty front part. Guys, as far as the mistakes that we tend to see with this exercise, pretty similar as with the side lateral raises. People using too much weight, not going through a full range of motion rather, or using too much weight and really swinging the weight up. We don't want to do that. We want to have a controlled, concise lift here, guys, holding the weight at your side, just lifting it up with good controlled form. Now, as with the lateral raises, we don't have to go all the way up like this, but I would at least come up to where your arm is parallel with the floor, maybe a little bit higher to where your fist is about at the level of your forehead. I'm going to grab a good weight that I can handle with good form, get a good contraction, and get to it. So I've just got a set of 25s here. Again, with these, I tend not to go real heavy, but arms at our side, I'm just going to lift the weight straight out in front of me. Now, this is an exercise where if you want, you can do both arms at the same time. That's going to look like this. However, with this particular exercise, when we start doing both arms at the same time, that's when we start to tend to see swinging. So with this particular exercise, even though you can do both arms at the same time, saves you a little bit of time in your workout, I prefer to do it with, or individually rather, one arm at a time. All right, guys, next up, we're going to start the focus on our rear delts and our traps. Now, as far as a shoulder split, some people prefer to work their front and their side shoulders with triceps or with chest, and then work their rear delts on a different day. I hit all my shoulders in one day, so I'm hitting a few more exercises than I would normally with other body parts, but again, a very dynamic muscle group, so I'm doing 3 exercises for the front and the side shoulders. Now I'm going to hit 3 more for our rear delts and traps. I'm going to start off here with the upright rows. Guys, this is a real basic exercise. We're just going to grab a barbell, hold our hands down in front of us, and pull the weight up just about to our chin. As far as common errors or mistakes with this one, it's the same as with everything else, guys. People using too much weight, kind of heave-hoeing the weight up, or short stroking it, not going all the way up. As with every other lift, guys, range of motion is important on these. So here at Crunch Fitness in Appleton, we have some of these nice pre-selectorized bars. If you start getting up into heavier weights, or you just prefer an Olympic barbell where you can slap the weights on the side, that's up to you. Also, we have straight bars and cambered bars here. I like the cambered bars a little bit better. I feel like I can get a little bit better squeeze with the cambered bars than with the straight bar. It's a little bit easier on my wrist, but again, that comes down to a matter of personal preference. So I'm just going to grab the weight here. I'm going to hold it at my side, just like this, weight down in front of me, and just pull the weight up. Like I said, I'm coming right below my chin. You don't have to pull it all the way up, above your forehead, but definitely want to be pulling it up at least to your neck, chin level. So again, guys, pretty basic exercise, just pulling the weight up and down. All right, guys, next up we are going to be hitting reverse cable flies. This exercise is really going to hit those rear delts and those traps. We're just going to start off grabbing the handles on each side. I'm going to crisscross, so I'm grabbing them like this, just starting right here, bringing the weight all the way back, getting a good contraction on those rear delts and traps. Now guys, there's a couple different variations of this exercise. You can do this leaning over with dumbbells, where you're going like this. Also doing a reverse pec deck, facing forward on the pec deck that a lot of gyms have. Now guys, the reason I prefer doing this on a cable setup is because with a pec deck and with dumbbells, on the downside of the lift, or the start of the lift, generally your range of motion starts right here. You know, with the dumbbell, the weights are gonna be here, you're going to here. With the pec deck, again, you're gonna be here, going to here. On a cable station, what you're allowed to do, or what this particular setup allows you to do, is grab the cables the opposite way, and you're starting the range of motion with your arms crossed all the way over here. Now the rear delts, or the delts in general, quite a bit of range of motion. So for rear delt exercises, really, you know, going from here to here is going to give you a lot better range of motion and a better workout overall than just going from here to here. So again, if you have the option of doing it with the cables, that's what I recommend, but doing it with dumbbells or a pec deck, doing reverse flies, is definitely a good alternative if you don't have this particular setup. As with the regular cable flies that we showed on our chest day, this is an exercise that I generally go pretty light with. You want to make sure you're getting a good contraction. It's an isolation movement, so generally you can't go pretty heavy, and I'm not going to on this particular exercise. But again, guys, I'm just going to grab the handles here. I got the cable set up about as high as my head. I don't want it too low, too high, although some guys do prefer coming down a little bit, or they'll set it low and come up and back. Again, just a matter of personal preference. But I'm going to grab these handles like this, and again, as I talked about, the start of this exercise, my hands are crossed all the way over, so I'm getting a very good range of motion. I'm just going to start from here and pull the weight back in a nice controlled manner. Now, as you can see, guys, I'm turning my hands a little bit when they cross. Sometimes if you have your hands still facing upright, you'll get a little bit of interference with the handles. So again, when I'm coming across from here to here, I've got the handles flat, and then when I get past that point, I'm turning them back like this for a real good contraction. All right, guys, in our last exercise of our rear delt traps portion of today's shoulder workout is going to be the barbell shrug. Now, the shrugs can be done a handful of different ways. You can do it here with a barbell. You can do it with the dumbbells. A lot of gyms rather have cable setups where you can set the cables low and do it like that. Hammer strength machines. So there's all sorts of different variations you can do for the shrug. Like I said before in previous exercises, we like to keep it basic here, and this barbell setup is about as simple as it gets. You can find it pretty much anywhere. Now, guys, this is an exercise where generally you can use a lot of weight. I know that's a relative term, but most guys can stack on a pretty fair amount of weight for this exercise. So I recommend, or at least would say, think about having some wrist wraps with you. I got these from the folks at ironrebel.com. I don't worry too much about vanity at the gym, but I got these cool black, red, and white camo ones, so I definitely like them. You can pick them up for a really good price, again, at ironrebel.com. But again, this is going to help ensure that you're working your traps to failure and your wrists aren't giving out ahead of time. I'm not going super heavy on this just for instructional purposes, guys. But again, pretty basic exercise. You're just grabbing the bar and shrugging it up. Now, as simple as this exercise is, we do tend to see some pretty silly mistakes with this exercise. And the most common one, as with everything else, guys, too much weight, not enough range of motion. And this is one of those exercises, guys, where even though the range of motion is relatively short on shrugs, we see guys really undersell themselves on range of motion, and they'll just kind of sit there and go like this. You don't want to do that, guys. Again, you want to try to get as much range of motion as you can. That's going to help the best as far as getting a good workout and making the best progress that you can on the particular muscle group. So I'm going to get wrapped in here. If you haven't used grip straps before, guys, they're pretty simple. You know, it takes a little bit of getting used to, but basically you're just wrapping them under or over the bar, using your thumbs and your index and middle fingers to wrap it around there. Roll the bar back a little bit. They'll roll up nice and tight. For shrugs, I like to get a little bit wider than shoulder width apart. I feel that's a comfortable position for me. You don't want to get too close. You don't want to get too wide out. So I'm going to stand up here with the weight. I'm going to keep my chest real big, chest up, a little bit of an arch in my back. And guys, I'm just going to shrug the weight up. Now you can see in this exercise, I'm leaning forward just a hair at the bottom, and that's so I can just roll my shoulders forward enough to get a deep stretch at the bottom of this exercise. So again, I'm coming down pretty far with this bar and shrugging up as high as I can. And again, guys, you'll see a lot of people at the gym just really short stroke this particular exercise. That doesn't have to be the case. If you use a weight that you can handle, you'll get a much better exercise going through a full range motion. All right, guys, and that is going to do it for today's shoulder workout. Let's do a little bit of a recap here. We started off with the first part of our shoulder workout with our front and side delts. We did our dumbbell military press, our dumbbell side lateral raises, and our dumbbell front raises. We switched over, started hitting those rear delts and traps, started with our upright rows, went over to our reverse cable flies, and finished off with the shrugs. Now, as far as a rep range for these exercises, guys, for the shoulder presses and for the shrugs, I'll go pretty heavy. I'll go as low as 6 reps with a heavier weight. For the lateral raises, the reverse flies, the upright rows, generally I stick between that 8 and 12 rep range. Again, once you start getting under 6 reps, you're using weights that are going to put you at a little bit higher risk for injury. Once you start getting around that 12, 15 rep range, you start getting more into aerobic work than anabolic. Now, as far as the number of sets per exercise, I like to keep it about the same as with all the other workouts. So about 4 sets per exercise. With 6 exercises, that puts us at a 24 set workout. Now, that is definitely a lot of volume, guys, but we're not training the legs, we're not training the chest or back. The shoulders is a smaller muscle group, so you're not going to get overly fatigued even going a little bit higher with the number of sets that you're doing. Guys, as with all of our other workouts that we do here at MD Training 101, the best advice I can give you guys, check your ego at the door. Make sure you're using a weight you can handle. Train hard, but train smart, and that's going to give you the best progress that you possibly can get. For another episode of MD Training 101, this is David Bay, and we'll catch you guys next week.